All right, welcome to today's show. I just got a couple things to cover. I'm gonna try to do this one all in one go, like I did when I started. So I helps me get them all knocked out, but in one go instead of screwing around with like, oh, I did one, then I'm gonna take a break, then maybe do it. Anyway, that's not important. What is important is the first story for today, which is Trumpcare has failed. It is not going to happen, at least for now. And I'm kind of getting into this a little bit late. The vote was actually held on Friday. As of course, initially it was going to be they're going to vote on this disastrous plan on Thursday. That didn't happen. Then Trump was all like, you're going to vote, pass or fail. We will vote on this on Friday. And they chickened out. So, if that's all you wanted to hear, you can click off now. Let me go in a little, but I want to go a little deeper into what's going on here, or what I feel is going on. Now, I had some pictures for this. Where we go? Where's Sad Trump? There he is. Oh, you go. Poor little Trump. He didn't get to get health care. Anyway. Okay, and as I've covered before, the Trumpcare / Romney Care, whatever you want to call it, was basically, it was going to be a disaster. It was going to kick, over 10 years, it was going to remove something like 24 million people from health insurance, which would have brought us in the neighborhood of something like 50 million total without health care in this country. Which, interestingly enough, at the time that Michael Moore's movie Sicko was produced, that's about the number that we had uninsured. At least that was the statistics quoted in the film. And it would have like driven up the costs. Like premiums for seniors would have been able to go up to like 5 times what a young healthy person pays. And everything else. They're gonna get rid of the Medicaid expansion and all this stuff. Now, in the last few hours of the bill's life, things had taken a turn for the worse. Because like essentially to appease the Freedom Caucus, like the really, really far right individuals in the House, Ryan and the White House had made a number of concessions, which honestly would have, I think, like it would have basically sealed the thing's fate if it had actually gotten past the House and onto the Senate floor, because basically what they wanted to do was to gut the essential health coverage portion or provision of the Affordable Care Act. And that's basically a thing saying that, an insurance company has to cover certain basic conditions or types of categories of treatment, like maternal care, emergencies, hospitalization, things that understandably people consider to be like a core, like the reason you get health insurance. Well, again, before the Affordable Care Act, you weren't an insurance company was not really required to offer those specific coverages. And if it's something that had the potential to cost them money, you weren't getting it. So they allowed that, which now, okay, that's supposedly going to lower premiums because, oh, well, now they can just now they can just throw out some like piece of shit health plan that doesn't cover what you need, and hey, at least it'll be cheap. But yeah, that wasn't even enough for them. So they pressed even harder and got them to and actually wanted. Now, I'm not sure if that was sort of the sticking point where they just wouldn't go that far. But I know that after that concession was made to gut the essential coverage provisions, they also wanted to get rid of the pre-existing condition, the parts of the Affordable Care Act that required insurance companies to cover pre-existing conditions. They also wanted to get rid of the provisions that forbid the use of lifetime spending caps, which, again, I've mentioned before is a thing. Like, if you have cancer and the spending cap is $200,000 and your treatment is $150,000, that means if you ever come down with cancer again, if it goes into remission and it comes back again later, once that $50,000 or once that $50,000 left over is used up, they're not paying for your coverage anymore. Like, really just draconian, like, bullshit, like, scammy kind of stuff. And that was what they were pushing for. They wanted that. They basically, essentially, what the hard right Republicans were doing or wanted is to strip out everything that had been changed from the way it was before the Affordable Care Act. They wanted it like that again. The only difference is they wanted to keep the government subsidies and the provision that allowed insurance companies to charge you extra if you go without coverage. Which, again, it's just one of those things. It's like, how could how could any of them think that, like, okay, gee, I'll pass this and I'm sure to get reelected next election after passing this crap. But anyway, so they tried all of that. That's what they wanted. Now, it's a little fuzzy on the details on exact. I think everyone's just kind of like, oh, thank God we don't have to deal with this shit anymore. So there's not as much or as readily available information as to exactly like what tipped the scales. What was kind of like, the straw that broke the camel's back. The potentially uninsured camel. What was it that officially tipped it to the whole, okay, yeah, it's not going to happen. I'm not sure if it was just the hard right was basically wanting everything gutted, and Ryan and the rest of them were like, no, we can't do that. Or if it was, they wanted it, Ryan and the White House would go along with it, but then the moderates were all like, oh, hell no, we're not voting for that. So I know there were a fair number of moderate Republicans, more Republicans that were scared of being unseated next election. But they were voting against it because it was going too far already. So yeah. Again, since they didn't actually put it to a vote, I'm not sure who, what exactly tipped it, but for now, the White House has said they are going to be just putting aside health care and leaving the Affordable Care Act in place and just moving on to other horrific cuts and changes that they've been wanting to make. So we'll see how it goes. Paul Ryan was quoted as saying that Obamacare is the law of the land and it will stay that way for the foreseeable future. So that's nice. And again, it's one of those things like I by no means do I think that the Affordable Care Act is perfect or even sustainable. But it is something. As shitty as it is, it's something, and it is better than what was before. So I think the Affordable Care Act needs to be improved. Of course, personally, I would like to see the Affordable Care Act essentially replaced with Medicare for all. Just single payer, be done with it, get it done. In fact, there is a bill introduced in the House right now to do that. I am a horrible a little commentator or something in this video at the moment because I forgot to pull up the info on that, but I will put a link in the description for that bill for you to read for yourself. So now, another thing about this whole situation with the hardline, hard right Freedom Caucus like digging in their heels and just flat refusing to move on it. Honestly, I think a lot of this, I feel it goes a bit deeper than just your standard, I'm a right-wing asshole and, fuck poor people. Because recently, and even Trump mentioned this in a tweet, one of his few that aren't like, dude, what are you doing? Let's hear. Democrats are smiling in D.C. that the Freedom Caucus, with help of Club for Growth and Heritage, have saved Planned Parenthood and Obamacare, or Obamacare. See, what he's referring to is, Club for Growth, Heritage Foundation, a number of other Koch brothers-backed organizations. Now, a few of them actually were so brazen in their threats that they actually did a press release where they said that essentially they will be cutting funding. Basically anyone in the House that votes for Trumpcare would lose their funding from them, and anyone who voted against it would get funding from them. So for one thing, okay, again, like, government corruption used to be a friggin' gentleman's game, You had, like, your smoke-filled back rooms, you had, like, your exclusive, like, clubs or restaurants, things you go and meet in and talk about things. You at least were private about your corruption. Bribes were taken care of on the down low. But now this is just, like, friggin' just full-throated friggin' balls-out corruption. Like, they don't care. It's in a fucking press release that, hey, if you don't do what we want, we're not gonna fund you, and we're gonna fund people that to run against you. Like, if you want our money, you have to vote this way on a certain bill. Like, are you shitting me? It's gotten to that point where they're just like, fuck it, let's just go, let's just go full tilt on this, and they're just publicly threatening to cut off the bribes to Congress if they don't vote the way that they want them to. It is insane that this is happening, and I mean, again, it's one of those things, like, I don't know, maybe I call it maybe the Trump effect, but it just seems like a lot of these things, like, that are happening, like, since Trump got into office, is really bringing out the ugly in politics. Like, it's just putting it right there on the surface. Because, I mean, you think about, like, the Dakota Access Pipeline, the TPP, friggin' drone strikes and everything. Like, a lot of bad shit happened under Obama, but no one really paid too much attention. And I think it's the same thing with Bush. So now it's like it's brought it all to the surface. One, he's too stupid to keep things quiet. And two, like, I mean, I don't know. It's just like maybe the corrupt scum of this country that are involved in politics have sort of taken Trump's election as a sign that they can come out of the shadows and just conduct business out in public. Who knows? But yeah, it just seems like all this stuff is just so public and so obvious. And again, I don't know. Hell, maybe it was before and I just wasn't paying attention. But it seems actually no, I'm pretty sure. Like I would have noticed. I would have seen stories about like friggin' right wing think tanks threatening to cut their funding if someone didn't vote a certain way, like publicly in a press release. Like seriously. But anyway, okay, well that about does it for this segment. Oh, I actually do. I also want to add that like it is interesting to see what's going to happen here, because again, like I said, a number of Koch brother backed political bribery organizations essentially, were making these threats publicly that hey, if you vote for this, we're cut off. And it failed. And now we have stuff like this coming out of the White House. And also, too, when you look back during the campaign, the Koch brothers did not like Trump at all. Like, they did not fund him. They didn't give him any money. They publicly said, like, okay, yeah, we're not really interested in national campaigns this cycle. We're going to focus our money on the down ballot races. And they did. So there's been some bad blood between those two, between Trump and his people and the Koch brothers, stuff like sort of the more traditional evil people, like evil corporate bastards behind the curtain on the right wing, like the traditional assholes. There's been some bad blood between them for a while. So it's interesting to see like these developments. Like again, healthcare for the moment, at least being left alone, is a good thing. Is a really good thing. But I feel that this whole situation, to me, is a bit more interesting, as to like what's going on in the Republican Party at the moment. And I can't wait to see what develops on that front. So now I'm actually at the end of this one. 17. I've got to start cutting these damn things shorter. I could have totally made this 2 different videos. Anyway. See you in the next one. Oh, like, comment, subscribe. Links in the description, as always.